Chapter 29 of Barnaby Rudge, A Tale of the Riots of '80. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recorded by Mill Nicholson. Barnaby Rudge, A Tale of the Riots of '80 by Charles Dickens. Chapter 29. The thoughts of worldly men are for ever regulated by a moral law of gravitation, which, like the physical one, holds them down to earth. The bright glory of day and the silent wonders of a starlit night appeal to their minds in vain. There are no signs in the sun, or in the moon, or in the stars, for their reading. They are like some wise men who, learning to know each planet by its Latin name, have quite forgotten such small heavenly constellations as charity, forbearance, universal love, and mercy, although they shine by night and day so brightly that the blind may see them, and who, looking upward at the spangled sky, see nothing there but the reflection of their own great wisdom and book-learning. It is curious to imagine these people of the world, busy in thought, turning their eyes towards the countless spheres that shine above us, and making them reflect the only images their minds contain. The man who lives but in the breath of princes has nothing in his sight but stars for courtiers' breasts. The envious man beholds his neighbour's honours even in the sky. To the money hoarder and the mass of worldly folk, the whole great universe above glitters with sterling coin, fresh from the mint, stamped with the sovereign's head, coming always between them and heaven, turn where they may. So do the shadows of our own desires stand between us and our better angels, and thus their brightness is eclipsed. Everything was fresh and gay, as though the world were but that morning made, when Mr Chester rode at a tranquil pace along the forest road. Though early in the season, it was warm and genial weather, the trees were budding into leaf, the hedges and the grass were green, the air was musical with songs of birds, and high above them all the lark poured out her richest melody. In shady spots the morning dew sparkled on each young leaf and blade of grass, and where the sun was shining, some diamond drops yet glistened brightly, as in unwillingness to leave so fair a world, and have such brief existence. Even the light wind, whose rustling was as gentle to the ear as softly falling water, had its hope and promise, and, leaving a pleasant fragrance in its track as it went fluttering by, whispered of its intercourse with summer, and of his happy coming. The solitary rider went glancing on among the trees, from sunlight into shade and back again, at the same even pace, looking about him certainly from time to time, but with no greater thought of the day or the scene through which he moved, than that he was fortunate, being choicely dressed, to have such favourable weather. He smiled very complacently at such times, but rather as if he were satisfied with himself than with anything else, and so went riding on upon his chestnut cob, as pleasant to look upon as his own horse, and probably far less sensitive to the many cheerful influences by which he was surrounded. In the course of time the Maypole's massive chimneys rose upon his view, but he quickened not his pace one jot, and with the same cool gravity rode up to the tavern porch. John Willet, who was toasting his red face before a great fire in the bar, and who, with surpassing foresight and quickness of apprehension, had been thinking, as he looked at the blue sky, that if that state of things lasted much longer, it might ultimately become necessary to leave off fires and throw the windows open, issued forth to hold his stirrup, calling lustily for Hugh. "Oh, you're here, are you, sir?" said John, rather surprised by the quickness with which he appeared. "Take this here valuable animal into the stable, and have more than particular care of him if you want to keep your place. A mortal lazy fellow, sir. He needs a deal of looking after." "But you have a son," returned Mr Chester, giving his bridle to Hugh as he dismounted, and acknowledging his salute by a careless motion of his hand towards his hat. "Why don't you make him useful?"
"Why, the truth is, sir," replied John with great importance, that my son what, you're a listening, are you, villain?' 'Who's listening?' returned Hugh angrily. 'A treat indeed to hear you speak. Would you have me take him till he's cool?' 'Walk him up and down further off then, sir,' cried old John, 'and when you see me and a noble gentleman entertaining ourselves with talk, keep your distance. If you don't know your distance, sir,' added Mr Willet, after an enormously long pause, during which he fixed his great dull eyes on Hugh, and waited with exemplary patience for any little property in the way of ideas that might come to him, 'we'll find a way to teach you pretty soon.' Hugh shrugged his shoulders scornfully, and in his reckless swaggering way crossed to the other side of the little green, and there, with the bridle slung loosely over his shoulder, led the horse to and fro, glancing at his master every now and then from under his bushy eyebrows, with as sinister an aspect as one would desire to see. Mr Chester, who, without appearing to do so, had eyed him attentively during this brief dispute, stepped into the porch, and turning abruptly to Mr Willet, said, 'You keep strange servants, John.' 'Strange enough to look at, sir, certainly,' answered the host; 'but out of doors, for horses, dogs, and the likes of that, there an't a better man in England than is that Maypole Hugh yonder. He an't fit for indoors,' added Mr Willet, with the confidential air of a man who felt his own superior nature. 'I do that. But if that chap had only a little imagination, sir.' 'He's an active fellow now, I dare swear,' said Mr Chester in a musing tone, which seemed to suggest that he would have said the same had there been nobody to hear him. 'Active, sir!' retorted John, with quite an expression in his face. 'That chap! Hallo there! You, sir! Bring that horse here, and go and hang my wig on the weathercock, to show this gentleman whether you're one of the lively sort or not.' Hugh made no answer, but throwing the bridle to his master, and snatching his wig from his head in a manner so unceremonious and hasty that the action discomposed Mr Willet not a little, though performed at his own special desire, climbed nimbly to the very summit of the maypole before the house, and hanging the wig upon the weathercock, sent it twirling round like a roasting jack. Having achieved this performance, he cast it on the ground, and sliding down the pole with inconceivable rapidity, alighted on his feet almost as soon as it had touched the earth. 'There, sir,' said John, relapsing into his usual stolid state. 'You won't see that at many houses besides the Maypole, where there's good accommodation for man and beast, nor that neither, though that with him is nothing.' This last remark bore reference to his vaulting on horseback, as upon Mr Chester's first visit, and quickly disappearing by the stable gate. 'That with him is nothing,' repeated Mr Willet, brushing his wig with his wrist, and inwardly resolving to distribute a small charge for dust and damage to that article of dress, through the various items of his guest's bill. 'He'll get out of almost any winder in the house. There never was such a chap for flinging himself about, and never hurting his bones. It's my opinion, sir, that it's pretty nearly allowing to his not having any imagination, and that if imagination could be, which it can't, knocked into him, he'd never be able to do it any more. But we was a talking, sir, about my son.' 'True, Willet, true,' said his visitor, turning again towards the landlord with his accustomed serenity of face. 'My good friend, what about him?' It has been reported that Mr Willet, previously to making answer, winked; but as he was never known to be guilty of such lightness of conduct, either before or afterwards, this may be looked upon as a malicious invention of his enemies, founded, perhaps, upon the undisputed circumstance of his taking his guest by the third breast button of his coat,